How do you deal with conflict, either within yourself or with others? Do you avoid, compromise, or do you face it head on, allowing yourself to work through the discomfort? Well, stay with me for today's episode where we'll talk about embracing and working through something that is referred to in dialogic interventions with groups as the Groan zone.
The following was recorded in front of a live studio audience at the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe. This is the United Podcast Network.
Welcome to Rat Race Reboot. I'm your host, Laura Noel. And as a certified coach and former 27-year military leader, each week I provide bite-sized mindset pivots that will help you reset your mind, reawaken your spirit, and regain your control.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode. I'm excited to be here, and I love when for those of you who don't know, I am 2/3 of the way through my doctoral program for organizational psychology with a concentration in neuroscience. And so I love when I learn a different method or just a different insight from some leaders, thought leaders, and I can share that with you and kind of dissect it a little bit and then kind of put a twist on it as it pertains to individuals who are getting out of the rat race. But I'm talking about something called the Groan zone. And in Sam Kanner's Facilitator's Guide to Participatory Decision-Making, he describes the Groan zone as a space where the team and the group is brainstorming different things, and there are a lot of divergent opinions and ideas going on. And people can start to become impatient or confused. There's a lot of misunderstanding. A lot of people aren't listening to understand. They're more advocating for their point of view. And oftentimes, teams will just kind of get frustrated and move on to the next thing, or they don't really get very far. They don't work through it. And so the Groan zone is a really great place to be because it's a place where you can tap in. If you're really listening to each other, you can tap into that creativity. Remember, you will only take you as far as your level of awareness will take you. We don't have all the answers. I don't have all the answers. But when we can push through that Groan zone, we're going to be much stronger as a team, as a group. And I'm thinking about this in the context of course, working with teams and groups, and there's a lot of tools that we can use as facilitators to help teams get through that Groan zone. So if this sounds like something you need support with, I want you to go to the show notes and let's book a call together and we can talk about it and see where you might need help. But I'm thinking about this on an individual level. We have our comfort zone, it's the Groan zone. And sometimes when I'm talking with clients, especially when they're first starting out, there can be, it seems like a bunch of divergent ideas or a bunch of random ideas, particularly when they're trying to land on what it is they truly desire. If you are trying to get out of the rat race to do something, you've got to figure out what that something is. Otherwise, you're going to stay stuck in the rat race because if that's your habitual way of being, if you don't have a really good reason to change, if you don't have a star that you're shooting after, then you're not going to change. Your paradigm and your BS and your mental programming is always going to be stronger than that goal, and it's always going to suck you back in to home base, even if you're not satisfied being there. So I'm thinking about some people that I've talked with or that I've even worked with in the initial stages of going through this mindset work and this personal development work. And oftentimes people will feel stuck when they're brainstorming ideas of, gosh, if I could have anything I want, what would that be? God, that seems so vast and so big. How do I land on one thing? Well, that's a Groan zone. But sometimes people will just abandon that idea and they feel like they don't know and they don't have the answers. So then they get distracted. So their habitual way of being, chasing those, shiny pennies and squirrels, kind of reel them back in. And then they're still left feeling not satisfied. So I'm going to give you some tips that sort of align with that groan zone that you can use on an individual level to help you get unstuck. So I want to ask you, and this really aligns with what we talked about last week, and that's taking full and extreme ownership and responsibility for the results that you're getting. And pausing, and in that pause, listening to your intuitive guidance, listening to that intuition. How often do you actually listen to yourself think? We are bombarded with information coming at us from all directions. The news, other people, chat, Facebook, social media, school, work, competing demands of other people, that we often don't carve the time out to even acknowledge our thinking. But I'm telling you, the things that you want in your life, your goals, your dreams, they're not out there. They're inside of you. So I want to share a few things that I thought about the other day that I think would be really beneficial to you to help you get unstuck. No matter where you are in the process of goal achieving, whether it's in thinking up what is that goal, what do I truly desire, or if it's stepping through fear. I find that often getting stuck in analysis paralysis. So I have 7 things. One is when you finally do land on that goal, or if you're having fear even choosing one of those goals. I've had clients who were fearful of even landing on something for a multitude of reasons. Then think about your situation from another person's perspective. Use your mental faculties, your perception, and imagine what would somebody else who you maybe admire and respect say about this situation right now, where you're feeling stuck, where you're not taking the leap, where you're not being decisive and making the decision. And I want you to think about where you're feeling stuck, that stuckness, and then write it out, journal about it, but from that other person's perspective. That can often help us get unstuck and get us moving again. We're out of our own way. We're getting the problem outside of us and onto a piece of paper and kind of putting ourselves in somebody else's shoes and looking at the problem from a different direction. The other thing that I think is really helpful is when you're brainstorming ideas of some things that you want to be, do, or have, and you land on something, ask yourself why. I love this exercise, the 5 whys, because sometimes we can think of things and they're really surfacey. And I want that car, I want that house. But if you drill down, well, why do I want that house? Because I want to be comfortable in my home. I don't feel safe where I live now. Well, why? Because I want to have gatherings at my house. I never have gatherings at my house. Well, why? I want to have events at my house. So whatever that is, drill down to 5 times to get to the root cause of what it is you truly desire. Maybe it's not the house that you desire, but maybe it's you want to have more family gatherings. Well, you could do that now, and you could start living in that way now and still have the house too. But it just gets you to drill down, why is this important to you, and what is it that you truly desire, okay? I often say it's very helpful to have somebody to talk to, and have a coach or a mentor that you really respect and admire, who has your best interest at heart, who can mirror back to you some of the things that you're saying out loud. I remember, and I don't remember what it was that I said exactly, but I was a small group of us were in the lounge, and we were going on a private jet back from Vegas to Toronto with Bob Proctor. And Bob Proctor was incredible at just really listening. And I think I just said something careless that just came out of my mouth in the midst of conversation. He's like, no. He zeroed in on that and corrected my thinking right there on the spot. So you want to have somebody in your corner who understands the law of attraction, who understands energy, who understands that how your thoughts become things and how important your thoughts are and how they can move you away from what you truly desire and also be used to leverage the law of attraction and your energy to move you in the right direction. So find a coach or a mentor. That's key. When faced with fears, when you're stuck at a crossroads, take 2 sheets of paper and write on one side facts, and then on the other side write opinions. So when you can distinguish between facts and your opinions and your beliefs often will feel real, but they're often not true, because a lot of our beliefs are a part of our paradigm. We've been dragging them with us since we were babies. It's like dragging home base with you when you're trying to circle all the bases and you hit a home run. You're not going to get very far. So if you can separate facts and opinions and then just focus on the facts, okay, you can change your opinions. Those are your paradigms. I love the idea of writing what's the best thing that can happen and write that out. So instead of thinking like we're trained to, well, what's the worst case scenario? We don't ever really think of, well, what's the best case scenario? And often when we're thinking about what's the worst case scenario, we're letting that drive our decision making. We're not letting the future drive our decision making. We're letting the past. Does that make sense? It doesn't make sense to me. How would your goal help others? Sometimes that can help you get unstuck. Think about your goal. And that's why I always have you think about your, when we're taking inspired action at the end of every episode, I'm having you think about your goal, but then I'm also having you bring other people into the picture, into the image. How is it impacting them? What's the ripple effect that you're having? And that can oftentimes help you get unstuck. And I love this one. This one I needed to use. I still use it. Is I have a bucket list. I have a folder on my desktop or in my email where when things sound really cool and interesting to me, I love learning. I would take all of the class. I probably have a folder of like all of the online courses that ever been created in the world in this folder. I've probably taken most of them because I just love learning. But we can't do all of the things and make progress, really massive progress toward our goals when we're chasing squirrels and shiny pennies. So have a folder on your desktop, on your computer, in your email, and call it bucket list. And then all of those things that seem really interesting to you, just put it in there. They're not going anywhere, right? You can come back and get to them later, but don't let those things be distractions because it's just noise. And that is also your paradigm. I am all over the place. That's my paradigm. I love being in all of the things. But if I allow that way of thinking to pull me in different directions, I would never get anything done. And I know a lot of people like that. I seem to attract them, and I help them. If that sounds like you and you want some help, definitely go to the show notes. You'll see my calendar there. Book a call with me and let's have a conversation so I can support you in that. You don't have to live like that, and you can make some great progress toward your goals. So hopefully those 7 things will be helpful to you. These will also be in the show notes. You don't have to memorize them. It's all good. But I want you to kind of relax and just think about, where are you feeling stuck in your momentum, in your goal achieving process? Do you have a goal? Are you kind of confused by the multitude of choices out there? Have you decided to move in a direction, but you still, I don't know, for some reason, feel like something's blocking you? I want you to let that go right now. And I only want you to think about what it is you truly want. Even if it's a bit fuzzy and it's the feeling of you reaching your goal. Oftentimes, people have specific things in mind because they want to feel the feeling of freedom. They want to feel accomplished. They want to feel like they're making a difference. They want to feel love. Those are some things that are underneath some of those material things. It's okay to want material things too, by the way. So wherever you are, bring to mind what it is you truly desire, even if it's just a feeling. What does freedom and joy feel like? If you've reached your goal and you feel the joy of being there and you feel free, who are you sharing that joy and feeling of freedom with? When you feel that joy and freedom, are you being present, truly present, in doing things that matter to you? Are you being present with the people you love? And I want you to bring those individuals to your mind's eye. How are they experiencing you when you are rock solid, confident, joyfully present, free from concerns? What is it like being in your presence? And as ideas float to your consciousness, or words, feelings, write them down. And carry those with you throughout the day. And maybe you feel inspired to take action toward that vision. So whatever you brought to your mind's eye, the feeling of your dream fulfilled, you're in harmony with that right now. And so when ideas and inspiration float to your consciousness, take action on that. Even if it doesn't make complete sense to you, take the first step. See, if you're really landing on a goal that's worthy of your greatness, you're not going to know all of the steps. You're not going to see all of the steps it's going to take to get there. But you'll see the first one. And this is where taking inspired action is so important. Take that first step. And when you're there, you'll be led to the next one. Do that every day, and you're going to create some massive traction in the direction of your goal. So I hope you enjoyed today's episode. If you did, go to ratracereboot.com. Wherever you listen to your podcast, leave us a 5-star review. Leave us a written review. I read those, and it helps this message get out to more people. And also book a call with me if you want some help, if you really want to help yourself pivot in the right direction. You don't have to do this alone. Remember, everything is created twice. First in your mind, and then in physical form. See you next time.
The views and opinions expressed by the hosts, guests, or callers of this program do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the Studio 21 Podcast Cafe, the United Podcast Network, its partners, or affiliates.